Hey, welcome to today's episode, and I am once again joined by our producer, Bo Snyder, and we are doing something really cool this month. We're calling it Movie Month. So we're basically going to be breaking down different movies, sagas, franchises, and different areas of movies, categories from different studios, and we're going to be pulling out the truth that you can find in these stories. And so I'm really excited about it. Hope you are too. My name's Luke Clayton, and this is Connection Culture. Well, Bo, here we are again.
Talking about something you are excited to talk about.
Well, so today we are going to. So we've been kind of graduating in terms of, if you will, and I kind of wanted to do this intentionally in terms of the age brackets.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Pixar's obviously, man, younger kids, families all around, and I love that. Mm-hmm. Marvel, older kids, teenagers, adults. Now we're going to go into something that really is, maybe young adults, maybe some teenagers, but definitely it's more on the adult level, not in terms of because whenever you hear like adult, you're like, oh, it's going to be more raunchy. And no, in terms of content,
it's
as far
deep.
as, yes, story and things like that. And that is the films of Christopher Nolan, which is no secret that he's got to be my favorite writer-director out there.
Yep.
And because he's simply done some great stuff. So, because here's the thing. Here's what's awesome about Nolan. You're either a huge fan of Nolan, whether you either realize you are or you don't.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't even think about directors. They don't think about the writers and directors.
They don't. A lot of people can't even name directors of stuff like we can.
So, if I were to say, we're going to talk about the creator of the Dark Knight series, now everybody's interested.
Yes.
Because there is no question that that's one of the best trilogies of films to ever exist.
Yeah, The Dark Knight, it's okay.
yeah, right. Huh? So, what we're going to do, here's, I think, with the approach that we will take. Let's take, first of all, let's talk about a couple of his earlier films.
Okay.
Just kind of so people get an idea of where he started. His kind of first feature film was Memento. I have a confession. I've never seen his first film.
I've never seen it either.
But I've heard it's really good. Again, because here's what Christopher Nolan is known for. He's what we would call a non-linear storyteller.
Yes, that is the non-linear. Absolutely.
Which means that he is not following any sort of. He really doesn't follow a timeline as far as in a traditional how time would unfold. He messes with time,
big time,
which is amazing, and that's what makes his stuff so like trippy. So that is kind of his thing. So Memento really is where he kind of introduced this concept of nonlinear storytelling and really leaning into it. And so then he directed Insomnia. I've seen it. It's okay. He didn't write it. He just directed it. And then 2005 was kind of his big break, if you will, his biggest film to date. They chose him to do the Dark Knight series. So Batman Begins came out in 2005, which is hard to believe it was that long ago.
It is.
And we'll start talking about I think we should talk about the Dark Knight series as a whole. And so what I'm going to do is skip ahead 1 year to The Prestige. And so this is his first movie after Batman Begins. And because pretty much with all of these, he did not do the whole series all in a row. He did like one movie, then he did another one, and then he would do the next one. So the whole Dark Knight series spans about 7 or 8 years.
Sure.
So The Prestige is a movie. It's about basically magicians. It's really good. I would recommend if you haven't seen it. It's one of his lesser known ones, but I recommend if you haven't seen it, check it out. It is pretty cool. It's got a pretty cool ending. Now, let's talk about The Dark Knight. Let's talk about this series of films. So Batman Begins, of course, begins all of it. And, all of these movies are so good. So before now, what we had in terms of Batman, we kind of got to know Batman on screen in terms of in live action form, that is. The Batman movies of like the 90s, ugh.
I was gonna say that when Batman Begins, I would have been a teenager. This was the first Batman. This is the Batman that I identify with.
So there's the Keaton Batman of the 80s.
Yes,
which that movie in and of itself isn't bad.
You got to think of it for the time and the era.
Yep. But then from that, the original Batman into like I think it's then there's Batman Returns. That's got Keaton again.
Yeah.
And it gets weird. Then Keaton bails.
Sure.
And they recast. And then they go to Batman. Is it Batman Forever? And now it's
right.
what's his Val Kilmer's playing him.
I can't even tell you for sure.
And now they get Tim Burton involved. Tim Burton's weird, and so then they get really weird. The movies just get weird. The Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. I think those are the two ones that were released in the '90s. Because then, Batman and Robin is Clooney. Clooney plays Batman in that one.
Yeah.
It just gets really weird and whatever.
Very strange.
And so now, they said, okay, we're going to have to reboot. We're starting over.
Yep.
And so Nolan says, I'm going back to the source material. And he says, I'm really going to give the origin story of Batman, like a good origin story. And that's obviously Batman Begins.
Yep.
So basically, we got Bruce Wayne. We see his parents dying, but he tells the story in a nonlinear way. So we're seeing Bruce Wayne kind of in this training with the League of Shadows, and then, we're kind of flashing back to his childhood and things like that. So that is really, it's just really cool nonlinear storytelling. And then there is a point where we kind of, okay, now he's back. He's back in Gotham. And now everything is pretty, linear,
present
if you will.
Going forward. Yep.
Yes. So things I like about the Batman series, and I guess talking about Batman Begins, I love the theme of, so Batman, what he's known for, the one thing he won't do, the one rule, as the Joker starts to call it in Dark Knight, that he won't break, Batman will not kill.
Yep.
And I thought it was really good. I rewatched Batman Begins, or part of it here recently, and he's passed his training, if you will. His final test is to execute. They ask him to execute someone. He says no. I said, this is a criminal. This is what we do. We deliver justice.
Sure.
And he says, well, that's what makes us different. That's what makes us different from them. Is that and they said, well, that compassion is going to be your weakness. He said, that's okay, because that is what makes us different.
Yeah.
And I thought that was there's something to that. Yeah. I think a good application is, this is talking about executing, and obviously that's pretty heavy. But I think in the general of, you talk about someone who's maybe Christian or non-Christian. Let's just use that example. There are things that make us different, and that we're not going to engage in the same warfare, if you will. We're not going to use the same tactics.
Yeah.
Some of it we will, because it's just humanity. But we're not going. We have to draw some lines.
Yeah.
In how we're going to engage the culture. And so I thought that was really good. So then, as we go into Batman Begins, we get into I believe it's the Scarecrow is the main villain in this one, and then big twist, Ra's al Ghul is the villain, his original mentor.
Yes.
And so. And it just comes back to those clashing ideals of, their solution is, if something gets too bad in terms of Gotham City has gotten so corrupt and wicked, you have to destroy it and start over. Whereas Batman says, no, we can pretty much affect change from within, and we can save it.
Right.
Which again, I think is just a fantastic underlying idea.
I was just going to say the same thing we talked about in the first episode of this with the Pixar is, everyone, hates on a lot of these things, but there's so much good story, so much good ethics actually come out of a lot of these. Now, once again, you can say whatever you want, but it's actually there.
Yeah.
Most heroes or most, people that are, kind of in that position, their thinking is correct. They want justice. They want things to be done right.
Yeah.
And of course, they're fighting against other forces, other things. But it's like, you can pick out something good in all of these.
Yeah.
You really, really can. I give them credit for that.
Absolutely. So this is, I think it's really good, because there are people who want to take kind of, I even know what I would consider to be good people that are on both sides of this, maybe approach to, not that they really want to see, America, physically destroyed.
Yeah.
But there's some people that say, oh, things are too far gone, we have to tear it down and start over. I see people on the right and the left with that mindset.
Sure.
But then there's the others that say, no, we what we have here in terms of using America as an example of our country is a good thing. It's not perfect.
Sure.
And let's just continue to be, which really comes back to one of the things we've repeated over and over again. Change in our culture does not happen from this top-down approach. It doesn't happen because we do something drastic, and some really big moment just revolutionizes everything. No, it happens when individual people, citizens, decide that, hey, we're going to we're going to do our part, and we are going to affect change on our level. And so, again, I just really like that kind of underlying theme there of Batman Begins. Of course, then the end of Batman Begins really sets up the franchise.
Oh, dude.
Great scene, man.
Great scene. It's just like, oh, yeah. Classic cinema ending there.
Yeah, they really set it up for the next one. They give him the Joker card, and I'll look into it, and by the way, Christian Bale, a great Bruce Wayne / Batman. I mean,
probably the best.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll give anyone a chance.
I like his gritty take on it. You know? It's like we were talking about. Okay, so we were talking about Tony Stark, and he's this kind of like sarcastic, just having fun, very into himself, egotistical, whatever, arrogant, whatever you want to call him. Well, on Bruce Wayne's side, he's still got an ego. Yeah. He's still very much like, I'm a big, but he's a lot more like subtle and quiet about it.
Definitely.
And so I just think Christian Bale did a fantastic job playing the role all throughout.
Let's talk about The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's get to The Dark. Oh man, now. So Batman Begins.
We got a lot of things to get through, and we're going.
I love Batman Begins because it lays the foundation.
Of course, it does.
But The Dark Knight, this is when it gets real, man.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most intense. Here, go ahead.
We have probably the best performance of any human, of any character, particularly a villain, ever, in Heath Ledger playing the Joker.
For those of you that are just listening, Luke, I think he looked very intense when he said that. He was just like, that was pure.
It's worth going and watching the video, right?
Pure, true emotion right there. It's like, whoa, he was really serious about that comment.
Hey,
which is true.
Of course, what is unfortunately attached to The Dark Knight and this character is the death of Heath Ledger, which I would like to make a clarification. Heath Ledger did not kill himself because he played the Joker. Mm-hmm. People, that was the story that circulated, that it was such a sick and demented character that it caused him to kill himself. No. Heath Ledger didn't. First of all, it remains to be seen if he really killed himself on purpose. He overdosed. Whether that was something he meant to do or not, that I don't know. You draw your own conclusion there. However, Heath Ledger was going through a really difficult bout in his personal life. He was going through a divorce, custody battle with his daughter, all stuff that was very weighing on him heavily.
Sure.
They actually said the Joker, what he loved is that it allowed him to escape that reality and live in this character. And they said the Joker was the happiest thing about him at this time, because he did not die. It was early 2008. It was like 6 months before the movie came out.
Okay.
By then, shooting was wrapped. Whatever. So, anyways, I don't, because that's the stigma that gets attached to this film.
Right. So they did this to him. And,
it's like no, he actually really enjoyed playing the part.
Yeah.
And there were just other personal things that led to that. So, it's tragic.
It is incredible. It is incredible when you see. There's a couple of interviews of him talking about the role, and when you see like him like next to his character, like all of his makeup and everything, is like, there is no way that's the same dude.
Yeah.
But I mean, this guy, man, everything from his voice, the way he moved. I mean, it is still. I mean, I actually go back and like watch the Oscars. It is one of the most. People will not second guess, like, one of the most tremendous performances of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
True story. He never went back and watched any of his scenes. Now, he obviously passed away not too long, but he never watched any of them.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
That's actually pretty common in a lot of these bigger.
Yep.
They just don't watch what they do. It's kind of strange.
Johnny
actually.
Depp has never seen a movie he's done.
Johnny Depp. Yep. He's probably one of the more eccentric guys. Has never done that.
Definitely.
But same thing with him. He's like, because actually one of the people asked him about, what do you think of this scene? He's like, I've never actually seen it put together. I'm sure it came out good, but it's just kind of an odd. Thing there.
So and yes, you mentioned this. That is one of the Oscars I think that they got right.
Yes,
they gave him
definitely
posthumously. They gave him Best Actor. He should have definitely got that. And so that was so a fantastic performance from him as a villain. Probably, I was talking about Thanos. Thanos is up there. Darth Vader's up there. But he's one of my Joker is probably my favorite on-screen villain, ever.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because there's so much to him than just being a villain.
Right.
But yet, you never really know how he got that way.
Exactly. I was just going to say,
they give a couple different versions of how he, you don't know how I got these scars.
They do.
And really good there. So, again, Dark Knight, just the depth of the story
Yeah.
is what makes it good. And I think Nolan did a really good job here, because obviously here it is all linear. There's no jumping around or anything like that. So what I think he did a good job of communicating a lot of deep meaning that a lot of people really grasp.
Sure.
They could understand. And I think the underlying message that's there is the Joker is insistent that, you know, everybody is, you give them the chance and whatever, and everybody's going to, you know, just turn on each other. Now, I'll play both sides of the coin there. From a again, a Christian worldview, there's none righteous. You know, we're all sinners. We are all corrupt.
Sure.
So I don't want to lean too much into the fact that no, man is good, because man is not good. Man on our own, we are evil. However, I think that the overall lying message is that, hey, look, as a society, there is a decency that we all have.
Sure.
Just as a community of people. That, to me, is really that message that prevails there, you know, I think is really good. That, hey, you know, you seem to think that everybody's just going to turn on themselves.
Right.
And
that scene where it's like he's just waiting for them to, it's like,
to blow up the fairies.
And it's like, it doesn't happen. And he's disappointed.
Yeah.
But Batman's like, I told you so. You know, it's just kind of a cool scene.
So, yeah, I do, man, Dark Knight's, I think universally people would agree it's the best of the three.
It definitely
and
is.
And it's one of the few where you have usually the first or the third of a trilogy is the best.
I was just
but this one in the middle is the best.
Because the Dark Knight Rises, it's good.
Well, I think let's get into that. Let's get into the Dark Knight Rises. Because, again, we're not diving into all the ins and outs of the story and everything here. But the Dark Knight Rises, so to give a little background, the original plan was to bring back the Joker. That was the original plan.
Yes.
And they had to kind of completely scrap that and obviously start over. So given that had you been able to bring back Heath Ledger and the Joker, you couldn't recast him. Just no way.
No. That would have been interesting to see how good.
It's one of those things.
It is sad. It is.
Because I think the original was to have Joker as the mastermind and Bane as the kind of I think the original plan all along was to introduce Bane.
Was it really? Okay.
But now let's get into that though. I like The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, I like all these movies.
Okay.
And so I think sometimes though, again, it gets this bad rap because it was not The Dark Knight, because it could not be The Dark Knight. You could not bring back Heath Ledger. He's dead. You
kind of had to start over, but with the end in mind. It is kind of weird.
Yeah. So I like what they did. They put I think it's like an 8-year, even though there's 4 years in between releases of the movies. I think they put like an 8-year gap, I want to say it was, in terms of time. Basically, at the end of Dark Knight, the Batman takes the fall for...
the last scene of the Dark Knight. Oh, yeah.
He takes the fall for because Harvey Dent, which
another good villain right there.
Gonna jump back to that for a minute. Totally, I cannot go over that. You know, I love the line. Oh man, I'm forgetting it. But
either die a hero.
You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It's like, oh, that's exactly what happens to him. You know, and yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that.
There is
because
there's a lot of truth to that.
You know, anyways, but. And then another great line there is "The night is darkest just before the dawn." I love that line.
Good one.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so what happens is Batman takes the fall for Harvey Dent because he says, "Hey, even though it's not accurate, Harvey Dent was." He said, "I'm the Dark Knight. I'm this vigilante that goes around at night and just kind of takes care of business. He's the White Knight. He's the one who's on TV, and in the daytime, he's the face of justice.
Yeah.
We can't mess that image up.
Sure.
So he goes into hiding essentially it's a lie. He takes the fall of it.
Yeah.
So that's how it ends. He's not the hero. He's the hero Gotham deserves, but not the one we need right now. Another great line there.
Good line.
But so much is setting up. So here now, I think I want to say in the timeline, it's 8 years. Batman hasn't appeared in 8 years, and of course at this point nobody knows it's Bruce Wayne.
Sure.
You know, that's where we pick up. And here is again the underlying truth that I love. They built a lie. And the lie that Harvey Dent was good, whatever, the truth came out eventually.
Yeah.
You cannot sustainably, keep people happy, whatever it is, whatever built on a lie.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened they had this lie, and then it comes out that Harvey Dent actually was the one who killed, all those people and, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really good. Like, hey, the truth comes out and it will always prevail in the end.
Sure.
And you cannot build anything on the foundation of a lie.
Right.
And so yeah, Dark Knight Rises, you see Bane show up. Bane's a great villain, though. He is good.
He's a good villain.
Tom Hardy plays Bane.
Yep.
He does a good job. I love the opening scene.
Great scene. Let me tell you the biggest tragedy of The Dark Knight Rises. The casting of Catwoman. Horrible.
Yeah,
horrible
not a fan
choice.
of Anne Hathaway's
Did not a good choice. It just did not fit at all. Like,
I can see that.
That is one thing. It's like, this just doesn't go.
Yeah.
I don't even know if she was necessary to be there at all. But just her character, and not being mean to her, but it's like it just didn't go. I didn't like it at all.
It's hard to overcome the Anne Hathaway stigma of whatever that early role she had as the ugly girl who what man I'm totally forgetting the name of that movie. It's like her original movie.
I just think of her like Princess Diaries.
Princess Diaries. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's hard to. It really is, and I think this was maybe one of those roles where she was hoping to overcome that and whatever. But I do agree there is a lot of what purpose does your character serve?
That's just it. It's like it's just filler.
I get you there. So and then the whole premise of this though is Bane comes out and he says, I'm gonna basically kind of taking the same Joker approach. I'm gonna cause Gotham to destroy itself from within, or whatever. And then, Batman makes the ultimate sacrifice supposedly at the end, but at the end he's still alive.
Oh, dude, that ending.
The ending's great. Yeah. And the end, I think that's another reason though that the movie gets a lot of heat, if you will, because they leave it as if they're setting it up, but they had no intention.
See, that's the thing is I was super disappointed. Well, I guess going back, I was super stoked. That very last shot when that floor starts to come up, it's like, no way, they're gonna he's gonna take over the whole thing. It's like, nope, it's over.
But Nolan had no intention of continuing the story beyond that. However,
I don't know if that's baller or horrible.
And this is an interesting rumor, is that supposedly the DC universe, he was trying to set it up for them, and then Warner Brothers completely dropped the ball, basically.
No way.
Because shortly after Dark Knight Rises, we get another couple years after that, or maybe it's the year after that, we have Man of Steel. 2013, Man of Steel comes out. Okay. And so, and Nolan is a writer on that. He didn't direct it. He's a writer and a producer on it, though. Okay. And so, anyways, we're not going to get into all that, but basically, that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to set up the universe for them. Okay. And they never did anything with it, which is tragic.
It is.
So that's the Dark Knight series.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that encompasses it. Now, let's talk about a few of the other movies.
Okay.
And now I'm going to really go out of order because I'm going to talk about them in order of, I'm going to kind of blow through some of the ones that I don't want to talk about as much, like Interstellar. Okay, yeah, good, not great. Not my favorite. Some people love it. I thought it was cool.
It was cool, decent, but not.
It was really cool, but to me, just the end didn't do it for me.
This is
a weird ending.
The end ruined it for me.
Yeah,
I think.
Dunkirk. I like Dunkirk.
Dunkirk was good.
Dunkirk is because what I like about Dunkirk is now they're going to take his nonlinear story approach to true history.
Yeah,
and they tell so basically what they do is they tell the story of Dunkirk, which is really an amazing story. Basically,
it's a huge untold story.
It
really
is basically the Germans were closing in, and the Allies had to escape, and survival was victory in this case. Yeah, literally retreating.
If we can get off of here,
if we can get home, and all this, the citizens of the UK, literally get in their boats and come across the English Channel to rescue them. Pretty cool.
It is
pretty cool movie. The latest one is Tenet. Tenet came out last year. And I think that's the reason that it's not talked about as much, because Nolan went ahead and said, we're going to release this thing anyways. And he released it right in the middle of the pandemic. I went and saw it. I think that's one of the reasons that it's not as received. Okay. The other reason is it's definitely his trippiest movie thus far.
I mean, I remember just seeing the trailers, and I was like, okay, I am so confused here, which I know that's his style.
Talk about messing with time. He really messes with time. I don't even want to try to explain it because it's that complex. But I liked it. I've seen it a couple times. Okay. And it is one of those movies, and some people don't like this, but I do. I like movies that you can watch, and that's what the beautiful thing about Nolan movies. You can watch them again and again and again, and you can always kind of pick up a new nugget. It's like, wait, I never noticed that before.
Yep.
And because his storytelling is so deep. And so that's what I like about Tenet. And I have a feeling I'm going to rewatch that, every few months, every year, whatever, and I'm always going to pick up something new. So speaking of movies that are amazing, and my favorite movie of all time, Inception. 2010 is when Inception came out.
Yep. This is a top dog of.
This is other than the Dark Knight trilogy. This is Nolan's masterpiece.
It is,
and he released it kind of at the height of his career, off the heels of the success of the Dark Knight. Heading into the Dark Knight Rises, he releases it between the two of them.
Yep.
So if you haven't seen Inception, basically they explore the world of dreams. And
which sounds super cheesy, but it's like, whoa, dude.
But I mean, just
the different layers and that's
dreams
wild.
within dreams, and
it's like there's a little bit of this in Interstellar, but it's like, hey, 4 minutes in this place equals 2 days in this place, or what? Like, it's just kind of like, because I think, I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but isn't there like a scene where like this van is like going off a bridge, but like an unbelievable amount of time happens with like a 4 or 5 seconds it would take to hit the water or something. And it's like, what in the world? It's cool. It's super trippy, but it's awesome.
Exactly. So I do love Inception because, in fact, the last time I saw Inception, they re-released it in the theater leading up to, because it was the 10-year, 2020 was the 10-year anniversary.
Sure, that would be cool.
I went and saw it in IMAX.
Same thing all over
I
again?
didn't think it could get better.
Yeah.
It was pretty great. I'm so glad. Because, so a lot of these movies I didn't, earlier on, for whatever reason, I wasn't as much of a movie guy I guess when a lot of these came out.
Right.
So I didn't get to experience them in the theater. So the fact that I got to go back and watch that one in the theater,
cool.
that was pretty cool. So Inception, again, it's impossible to explain the story. You just need to watch it.
It really is. You cannot explain that.
But I think some of the truths that we can pull out of it. I love the battle between, for the central character Cobb, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, the battle between reality and the reality he's created for himself.
Yeah.
So basically his wife is dead, but yet he doesn't want to admit that she's dead.
Yeah.
And so in his dreams, the whole premise is that in your dreams you can build, you can basically, and you really can. It's called lucid dreaming. You can control what you dream. And so the whole premise is that he's built this world inside of his dreams, where his wife and his family, they're all still together. She's still alive, and it's just a bunch of memories from the past. And he has trouble though letting her go because he is so, I guess, so attached to the idea that in his dreams they're still together, but yet in order to truly move on, he's got to let her go even in that world. Yeah. And I think there's a lot to that because there are, when we experience loss, whether in this case, loss of a spouse, it's pretty intense. Well, whatever it is, whether you're losing a spouse or you're losing a job or you're losing a loved one or even moving away, relocating. Yeah. I have had instances in my life where you hold on to the memory. Yeah. And you don't let it go. And it holds you back.
Oh,
And you've got to grieve it and just let it go. And of course, that's what Cobb does here at the end. He finally lets it go and embraces reality. And in reality, he is restored to his kids because he was estranged from his kids because of they don't really explain it. It was basically he was wanted and couldn't come back to the States. Okay. But I think there's a lot of good truth there that how many of us live in some type of false reality, some world we've created for ourselves, or we're not letting go of something that we need to just let go, and we need to embrace the life that we have and that we've been given, and just live it to the fullest.
Right. There's so many examples we've talked about the last few weeks. There's so many good themes here, so many good things that people should be thinking of and pulling out of movies they probably don't even think about. Yep. It's like, what is this movie actually trying to tell me? Of course it's trying to entertain you. Of course it's meant to be kind of an escape. But it's like, what does this actually mean for me? There's something there for sure.
So as we kind of wrap things up, this kind of wraps up our movie month here, which has been really just I've super enjoyed it. Again, if nobody else enjoyed it, I enjoyed it. But I want to challenge the listener, the person who's watching. What we always say, don't be a mindless, constant consumer. And here's why. Because when you are mindlessly consuming, you're just watching just to watch, just to maybe be entertained. You are missing. You're first of all, well, before we get there, first of all, you are subtly picking up on the ideology that maybe the film creators actually want you to. The subtle messaging that they are intentionally putting in, trying to reframe your beliefs and ideology, which in many times is something that, we talk about people of faith, that they're really not on board with.
Sure.
But the second reason is because you're going to miss all of the other really good truth that's there that, again, maybe the film creator meant or did not mean to put there. Just the classic, again, circling back to the classic storytelling elements that you really can't escape. And that is is that good always wins.
Yep.
Evil always loses. Going back to, sorry not to jump back to Marvel, but we talked about, Thanos, you won. Well, in this part one you did, but no, you actually ultimately lose.
Right.
And I think that is something that is constantly reminded throughout the vast majority of movies and the stories that are told, is that good always wins. Yeah. True righteousness always prevails. And
whether they're trying to tell us that or not, it is true in life. It really is.
And it's promoting all these values, these things that these positive, maybe traditional family values that maybe they at the same time think they're trying to eliminate. A lot of times it's still there and you can't escape it. So as you watch movies, streaming, whatever it is, keep this in mind. Remember that there's always truth there, and try to be conscious as you watch it.
I was just going to say, try to look for something. Like you said, you always pick up a nugget in something. Look for it. Intentionally look for it next time you're watching something. Like, hey, I don't really know what this movie is about. Look for it. You'll find it. I promise you.
Yeah, and you and me, we always watch movies analytically.
Yes, of course.
From a technical perspective, and me and you both from a story perspective. And the truth is that we, so many times, people are like, well, because I'm being very analytical as I watch something. And I've had people ask me, they say, hey, are you able to enjoy it when you watch it that way? And I say, well, actually, I feel like I enjoy it more. Because not only am I having that level of just watching the movie, I'm analyzing it as we go. And for me, that's why I love the movie theater experience. It's so dedicated. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to get every little part of it. So not saying everybody has to be a super movie critic or analytic, but don't just mindlessly watch. Be intentional in the way that you're consuming anything. But in this case, particularly these stories in forms of movies and streaming and whatnot. Bo, it's been good having you with us.
Yeah, man, this has been fun.
This has been a good series. And hope everybody else liked it. And, I don't know if it's one of those things. I really wanted to do it this month because, like I said, theaters are opening back up. People are maybe starting to think about movies more. So I don't know if it's something that's like, hey, this will become an annual tradition. Because I don't know if I want to wait a whole year to talk about movies again.
We can't wait that long.
It might be something we just do every once in a while, kind of do a review and a recap. And if it's something you'd like to hear from us, let us know. Drop us a comment or an email or something, and we'd love to talk more about it in the future. So, Bo, again, thanks for being with us. It's been a fun movie month.
Yeah, man, it's been good.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Connection Culture. If you haven't yet, please take a moment to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to podcasts, or even on YouTube. Connection Culture is a production of the Must Increase Network. The show is edited and produced by Bo Snyder. Executive producer and host is myself, Luke Clayton. And if you want to help this content gets seen by others, then the biggest thing you can do is to simply like it on Facebook or YouTube and share it with your friends to help it get seen by others like you. After all, it's going to be so much more fulfilling when you get behind the content you believe in, when you share, when you let others know, when you contribute in that way, because it is so much more fulfilling to be a creative contributor than to simply be a mindless, constant consumer. I'll see you next time right here on Connection Culture.